There's still this mystery window of a 1-minute period where we wonder what happened. And this contributes to those questions. We need to ask, when was the video taken? How long after the incident? But again, it doesn't look good for Zimmerman, but I think it just contributes to, we need to continue to seek the facts here. What is the next element in the story? Because every single little fact changes it.
And Roland, you hear increasing calls, though, for George Zimmerman to be placed under arrest as in right now.
Well, again, when I was down in Florida moderating the community forum, talking with former prosecutors as well as defense attorneys, we went over the statute. They talked about that the police can still arrest him right now based upon a probable cause. I do not believe that the special prosecutor will actually do that. I think they will simply wait for the grand jury to be impaneled, for them to present the evidence, and for an indictment to be handed down, and then the arrest will be made. The Martin family obviously has been calling for that. And let's just be honest, had he been arrested, we really would not even be at this particular point here. That was the driving issue early on, that he simply wasn't even arrested. And for people out there who say it's wrong for the outrage and it's wrong for the protest, understand, we would not be seeing any of this information right now if it wasn't for people speaking up and 2 million people signing a petition. And so that's what's really driving them to really do a more thorough investigation.
Can I respond to that, Carol, since I'm one of the people that say that we should temper our outrage? Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I would just say this, that the point isn't for us to have the information. It doesn't matter whether or not you and I and the people on TV or the people watching TV have this information. The question is whether or not the information is being investigated. And whether or not it was, it's like me having to prove a negative to say it wasn't. I don't know. Was it, Roland saying the outrage served a purpose of pushing the investigation forward? Was the investigation done? Was it a cold case? Was it stalled? Was it over? I don't know that that's the case. So the point about the outrage is like to give it to you and me.
Actually, we do have, Carol, we have an answer there, and that is the Seminole County DA chose not to file any charges against him. And this case was dormant in terms of the family was not getting any answers from the police or the prosecutors for 2 weeks. And around March 9th and 10th and 11th, when folks like me begin to say, wait a minute, what's going on? Tremaine Lee of BlackVoices.com was writing about it. When all of a sudden folks on social media began to drive saying, what's going on here? Why isn't this thing being investigated? The family was screaming for help. I'm saying that the reason the investigation is moving forward is because of these protests and because of the coverage and the outrage, and that's why they've stepped up.
Okay, let's talk about the Stand Your Ground law. The Florida governor said he was going to put together this task force because the Stand Your Ground law might play a part in this case, and maybe we need to review the law. But it turns out that the task force isn't going to be put together until the Trayvon Martin case is done. So that could be a year from now. Democrats in the state of Florida are angry over that, saying we have to review this law right now. Why isn't task force being put together right now? The governor says, well, we can't put the task force together right now because it would interfere with the Trayvon Martin case. Will, any thoughts? No, honestly, Carol, I don't have a lot of thoughts. I mean, I do think that we have a case here and an incident that occurred when this law was in place. Should the law be reviewed? Absolutely. Will it change what happened that night and how we process what happened on that night? Well, that's kind of after the fact, isn't it? I have no doubt that the Stand Your Ground law should be reviewed. Roland?
Florida Governor Scott should be ashamed of himself. You do not have to wait for a task force to begin to examine this law after this case has been adjudicated. You don't. Again, State Representative Taylor there in Florida has made it clear he is going to introduce a bill to repeal the entire law. The original sponsor of this bill has said there needs to be modifications. I will say to the Florida legislature, you do not need to wait for the governor to act. You can act without him appointing a task force. That is ridiculous. Lawmakers, you passed it. You deal with it. Don't wait for a task force to look at it a year from now.
Will Cain, Roland Martin, thanks so much for a fascinating discussion. Appreciate it.